You are a cultural pioneer, or as I'd like to say, a culture-neer. You're daring to go where others aren't willing to go. The unknown doesn't scare you, it intrigues you. You're not satisfied with the status quo. Business as usual is not in your DNA. You're done with doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're an explorer at heart and a trendsetter by nature. You were born with purpose, called to lead, destined to make a difference. You are a Culture-neer. Hey, welcome to the Culture-neer podcast. I'm your host, Terry Gwaltney, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to select a team. I get asked this question a lot. I spoke about it last week when I was in Louisville speaking to some business leaders. I had a text yesterday from a business leader, like, can we talk about that a little bit more? It's such a big critical part, I guess, of just building a healthy culture. And we know that our culture and our organizations are only going to be as healthy as the leader, number one. We also know that the experience of our customers will never be greater than the experience of our employees. So based on those two things, culture is a huge part of giving us that competitive advantage in our organizations and in our businesses. But how we do that sometimes can be maybe even almost a little mystical because we get so busy doing the tasks that sometimes we end up just finding people to fill jobs and fill slots. And it's almost like I have a ship that's leaking and I'm poking my hole in these different places trying to keep the water from coming in and my ship from sinking. But we're not really doing anything long term to repair the problem. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. I have a quote, and I really do believe it, and I live my life by it. Don't hire people only looking for a job, but rather select people that are looking for a career that share your values. And that probably sums up everything we're going to talk about today. I won't have time to do this in an exhaustive manner, but I'm going to give you some bullet points and maybe some guardrails on how to start this process or maybe fine tune this process in your organization. In the book, The Culture-neer, that I wrote, there's a whole chapter dedicated to this. I actually have some examples in there of some of the things that we use to encourage our team to recruit other people, how we reward those, because we all know what you reward is what gets repeated in your organization. What you recognize is what gets repeated in our organization. We even talked through some of the interview questions that we use to try to get to know the candidates that are going to come serve on our team. One of the things that a wise old man told me years and years ago is never hire somebody that you don't want to have lunch with on your day off. And so that chapter is kind of filled with some of those topics. Think about that. If you're going to pay somebody to be in your life every day, you probably don't want to hire somebody that annoys you. You probably want to hire somebody that you really enjoy being around and they add value to you. People that add value to you can energize you. People that are toxic literally suck the life out of you. So super, super important on who you choose to be on your team. So choose wisely. You know, our lives right now are really a sum total of all the choices that we've made up to this point in our life. And I'd go so far to say that your culture is a sum total of all the values of the people that you've chosen to be on your team. Now you think about that. We know culture is either what we allow or it's what we create, but it really is the sum total of all those people that we've already chosen to pay or to volunteer, if it's a nonprofit organization, to be on our team. And life's greatest moments and our biggest disappointments are all going to be related to people. So I really want to encourage you to choose wisely. Now I'm going to give you just a quick framework before we jump into some of just the specifics of this. I personally think it's hard for anybody to select a team if you don't understand your why, if you don't understand how you're going to do it as a team, and you don't understand where you're going, and you don't understand the things that you value. If you don't have that, let's be honest, we need to continue to be a company of one. When you move from a company of one person to two people, that's important that you have the mechanisms in place to be able to communicate the same thing to the next generation of the team member or the leaders within your organization, whatever they are. Because what's made you successful will be the same thing that will make your organization successful as you scale. And so what does that look like in our world? It looks like having a vision statement. And I know I don't want to lose you right there. We've heard that. We've beat that drum. But guys, let's be real. For most people, it's a piece of artwork. What is a vision statement as far as how it pertains to us to selecting our team? Well, I need to know, if I look down the road 20 years, what do I want my company or my organization to look like? Like, what is that destination? If I could imagine that in my mind, because that's the thing. As the leader in your organization, you are the architect of the future. And so the image and the picture of that lives really only in the theater of your mind. And so understanding what I want to be when I grow up as a company or as an organization is important, because you need to be able to communicate that to other people. That gets them excited to move in the same direction. The second thing is before you go selecting a team, you really need to understand what's your mission statement. You call this whatever you want. I'm going to call it a mission statement. But the difference between a vision statement and a mission statement is the mission is how we're going to do this as an organization. This is how we're going to arrive at that destination that I see as a vision for our company in the future. And then you pin that to a piece of paper. Here's how we're going to do this. And then the third part of that is, like, what are the things that you value that have made you successful up to this point? See, those become your core values. Core meaning like this is essential to how we've come to this place of success, this level of service, what's caused our brand to have this certain reputation. So super important. Write those down. You're going to find that those are your values. If you value integrity and customer service and creating raving fans and valuing people and all those different kinds of things, those are your values. Now, if I'm going to go search for someone to join my team, they need to know where we're going, and I need to make sure that they want to arrive at the same destination. Does that make sense? I need to know that they're bought into how we're going to do that. For instance, if you are a sales-driven organization, there's a lot of different thoughts on how you sell people. It could be high-pressure situation. It could be a consulting approach to how you sell. It could be a generational selling. It could be a business to business or employee or, business to consumer, whatever the case might be. How do you want them to sell? How do you want them to represent your brand? Because your brand is your reputation, and your organization's reputation is an extension of your representation. So obviously that's important to you. So how you communicate that and how you go choose people to represent you is super important. Think about it like this. The President of the United States gets to pick what we call ambassadors to certain countries around the world. And so if he's going to pick an ambassador, let's say to Israel, that means he needs someone that when this guy goes to Israel, visits the embassy, spends a certain amount of time in that country, that when he speaks, he's speaking on behalf of the president. When he shows up at certain important functions and events, he is representing the president in his absence. And really, guys, when we're hiring people, we need to think about, I'm hiring an ambassador for my brand. And so will this person sound like me? Will this person make the same decisions as me in my absence? Will they portray the same values? Will they carry themselves in a manner that honors what I've devoted my life to building? So when you start thinking about it like that, then you're no longer looking for able-bodied people to fill an open position because of a crisis. In other words, you're not like most of us as business, because we've all been guilty, myself included, that we have a reactionary process to selecting a team. Matter of fact, there may be no selection. It may simply just be a hiring process. I need somebody. If I don't get somebody in this position quick, I'm already behind, and I'm going to break more promises to customers than what we can keep. And so I need to throw somebody in there. Being proactive, though, means I am selecting based on who is going to represent my brand, not just today, the best, but a long-term view. So when I'm interviewing people, I know what the current need is, the job title and the job description, but the interview is going beyond just the immediate need that I have. And I'm envisioning, how can this person fit into where we're going to be 5 years from now? And so that becomes a selection process. Let me tell you how great coaches in college do this. Some of the greatest coaches in college, when they're going to recruit people to come from high school into college to have a successful program, the greats are not going out and just looking like, I believe this guy could be a great quarterback at the college level. I believe this would be a great linebacker at the college level. He could really help us compete. No, the great ones, that's what the average coach does. The great coaches are looking for the people, the quarterbacks, like this guy can be great in the NFL. This guy would be a great linebacker in the NFL. So they're recruiting for potential on where they think they could be, even though they're not in the NFL. But because they're selecting and recruiting at such a higher level than the average coach, their team is performing at a peak level, which gives them a competitive advantage while they're in college, while they're playing on their team. That's the mindset that we need to shift to in our organizations and our companies. Don't just select for the immediate opening. Select for potential. Now, I'm a firm believer that potential is not just what you are. That's evidence of your current state. But potential is what you can become. So when you refine your recruiting process and your selection process, what happens is you're able to begin to spot talent based on the potential. And then on the back end, which is really a whole nother podcast in and of itself, is I'm committed to developing people. And so I don't have to hire a leader. I need to spot someone that has the potential to be a great leader, as long as I have the process, the time, and the commitment to develop them. Anytime we develop people, what we're building is we're adding value to their life. And if you add enough value to people's life, what happens is you're also creating a sense of loyalty between you and the person, because you have made them better simply because you invested in them. And because you've invested in them, they're willing to invest now in what's important to you, which in this case is your customer, your organization, your company. I really want to encourage you, change your mindset about going about how you're selecting your team. Move more into a proactive approach than just a reactive approach. I think as a business owner, you know that hiring the wrong person is one of the most costly mistakes that you could ever make. Wisdom is recognizing early on which of those decisions that you're making are the most important. And I can promise you this, the most important decisions are never about budgets, innovation, or time management. And every one of those are super important. We need them in business. But the most important decisions a leader will ever make will always be people decisions. So because of that, you need to treat it that way. Your process needs to be one that you're willing to invest in. If you personally don't have the time to make that kind of time investment, then you need to make it into someone, you need to make that investment in someone you trust that can kind of be your ambassador in the recruiting and the selection process. So you're making sure that they're looking for what you're looking for. I know in my organization, I've continued, one of the last things that I've kind of relinquished as a responsibility is this process, because I think it's so important. I want to know the people that are joining our team. I want to know how they're going to fit, because every person that you add to it is really adding something to that culture. Or again, they could take something away. You can end up spending too much of your time trying to fix something because you've added the wrong person to the team. I'm not saying that they're not the most talented. I'm not saying that they couldn't even have immediate impact because of their experience. But again, you're playing a long game. And so you need to make sure that you're hiring somebody that can grow with you so they can go with you. Somebody that's going to have that long-term impact, someone that you can build a relationship with. This is why this becomes more about being a selection process. You want to invest the time and energy to get it right the first time, because this selection process, hiring process, it affects everything in your organization. It affects your culture. It'll affect your brand. It'll affect your quality control, your customer experience, everything. It's been said, listen to this quote, if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they'll work for you with blood, sweat, and tears. That can be measured in what we call employee engagement. They are bought in because they believe in what you believe in. That's the kind of team that on paper seems like there's no way they can win. They're the underdog, but somehow you can't measure heart on paper all the time. And when you've built a great culture, it's very hard to be able to measure that, but the results are shown in the success, or the success is shown in the results, time after time after time. Hey guys, if this subject was that we went over today was helpful to you, selecting your team, I want to invite you to the Ripple Effect. The Ripple Effect experience is going to be on February 21st and 22nd at Mountain Dew Park in Marion, Illinois. This actually happens to be one of the topics that we're going to talk about, because we realize selecting your team, hiring, recruiting, figuring out who needs to be promoted to a customer in your organization if you can't coach them up is a challenge that many organizations are facing today. So I just want to encourage you, get your ticket today. You can go on Brushfire, go to terrygwaltney.com, look in the notes on the show. There'll be a link in there. This will be an event that will not only help you, but some of your mid-level managers. And if you just have aspiring leaders within your organization, they're going to become better because they participated in this event. We'll see you at the Ripple Effect. So what you should look for. When I first started interviewing people years ago, I had a very similar process to most people. I had a job opening because of growth, or I had a job opening because we had lost someone. I'd begin to advertise to fill that position just as quickly as I could. I'd conduct an interview. Even in the early days, we did a personality profile. Check a few references, go with my gut feeling on whether we should hire them. And looking back, this is what I was talking about earlier. This process was so reactionary because, like many in business, I was so consumed with working in the business, I didn't really have time to work on my business. This type of practice made me more of a firefighter, really, than a successful business owner. If you're listening today, some of this is probably resonating with you because it's many of the stories of us that have started, as an entrepreneur and tried to grow a company. These are the things that move you to being an owner, or to being a manager, or to being a CEO, to just being an employee. And there's nothing wrong with employees because we have to have them. We need everybody on the team. They have a vital role. But some people, we get in business because we had this dream and this desire to work for ourselves, build something great, have a life of freedom and peace. But what we found is we created ourselves a job that we're a slave to, and now we work harder and longer, many times for less money than some of the people that we've hired. There's something wrong with that. So when you begin to work on your business, though, you become closer to creating the model that you dreamed of, something that, because of your sacrifice over time, will present you with opportunity, will present you with freedom, and that will give you security. So I encourage you, if you haven't done it yet, figure out a way to begin to work less in your business and trade that out so you can work more on your business, to be able to get, really get what you desired when you first, got in business to begin with. I'm not going to be able to get through this today. We may do this in 2 parts, but it's super important, I think, as you begin to work on building a culture, that you attract the type of people that you want to work here. So many times our approach is how do we recruit the kind of people that we want? How do we find them? Where do we go after them? And so, we come through the last couple of years, what was called the Great Resignation period in our country. People were changing jobs like they were changing their socks. They didn't, there was just so much turmoil, no real sense of loyalty. A lot of employees, felt almost like they were freelancing. They'd leave one job to go to another one. Very hard to build a business and a reputation and a brand and great customer service when the door is constantly, open on the back like it is on the front, and you're constantly training new people. This, I think, is where it becomes super, super important, guys, that what if you change the mindset and you built an organization and a culture that was attractive to the kind of people that you wanted to hire, that you need on your team? That's a different mindset. I'm not just focusing all my energy and time looking for the kind of people that I think will move us forward and make us successful. I'm spending my time creating the organization and the culture that those type of people are looking for. That slight difference gives you a huge competitive advantage. Why? Your best recruiters will become the people that already work for you. And I promise you that you can have the greatest ads and spend the most amount of money to try to attract new talent to your organization. Eventually, though, they're going to talk to the people that already work for you, or they're going to read a review. And if the experience of the people that already work there is not glowing and it's contrary to what you're advertising, it will feel like a bait and switch, and that their experience will become an influence that will detract from your ability to be able to recruit people or to get people once you get them there. So one way or the other, you're going to have to work on your culture and create that place to where your current employees want to stay, are excited about being there, are highly engaged, and they will become some of your best recruiters. And so explore that thought a little bit through your organization. Maybe do a survey with the people that are already on your team. What is it that you like most about working here? What is it you like least about working here? What's the favorite part of your job? What's the part of your job that frustrates you the most? So you're going to have to be honest and willing to process through some answers maybe that you don't like. I would almost encourage you to do some of this anonymously because the feedback of some of this is going to be super helpful to get the perspective of your people to know where you need to get under the hood and begin to tweak and begin to change things in order to turn those people into your best ambassadors. When you do that, you can begin to reward them for their efforts, and it incentivizes them to go out and find some of the best people that you'll ever have. The highest success rate that we have in our organization always comes from people that have been referred to us. Now think about that for a minute. If we've built a culture and an organization that our people enjoy coming to every day, that they can describe as family, that they feel like they're better because of the people they work with and the environment they're in, they're better at home because of what they're learning at work and what they're exposed to at work, then they don't want to just invite anybody into that organization. Why? Because it will take away from their experience. It will take away from what they value and what they're pulling from that. So what happens is they become the best filters and recruiters. I've had guys say, hey, do you know this guy? You share the same last name. And one guy told me, he said, yeah, that's my brother. He said, but I never mentioned him to you because he's a great guy, but he would not be a great fit here. So, oh, well, I appreciate the candidness. I appreciate, your honesty. In other words, he already knew he's just not going to fit. And so a couple of things are at play there. I don't want to recruit a guy that is a bad reflection on me. I also don't want to mess up a good thing. And so he can be great, but it doesn't mean he's a great fit. So they're super helpful with that. The other thing is they know exactly what you're looking for. If you're choosing to continue to pay someone to be on your team and you think they're going to help you win and be successful, then when they go look in the mirror, that's probably exactly what the next candidate looks like for you. So think about it. And so one of the things that we did is we created an incentive program. Somebody recruits somebody in an organization over the course of a year, they can earn up to $1,500 in a bonus just for finding a great candidate that's a good fit. And we build on that. They start their first day, they get $100. They make it through their probationary period. 90 days later, they get another, I think it's $150. And they get $250, 90 days later. And I can't remember exact numbers, but the big number is once they're here a year. After they're here a year, on that day, we celebrate them in front of the whole team and we give them $1,000. And so they're also looking, for the same thing we are, longevity. They're looking for someone that's looking for a career change, not just a job. Jobs are temporary. Jobs are short-term thinking. It's hard for people to get fully bought in and committed and experienced and super valuable in a job. But a career, I'm making decisions today. My performance today is reflecting of where I want to be 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, because I'm looking at it from a career perspective. And I know I'm also being evaluated that way. Again, a slight mind shift causes you to drive higher performance. It causes your people to become better recruiters. And they won't just pick somebody to game the system. Man, I need $1,500. Well, it really doesn't matter how bad you need $1,500. We're not going to keep somebody a year if they're not living up to what we learned about them through the interview and the selection process. Does that make sense? So build your system that rewards the intention and the effort that you're looking for out of your employees, that you're getting the result that you want. The reward needs to match the result that drives behavior that you want. Many times, some of the biggest problems that we have in our organizations are our compensation and our recognition programs. They're not designed to drive the type of behavior that we want. So don't just say how valuable that is. Show them the money. Don't just pat them on the back, but celebrate them in a public forum and let them know how important it is, because you're sending the message that this is what we recognize, this is what's important, this is what gets rewarded, this is also what gets promoted. And so you're very intentional about how you're driving that message when you're selecting your team. There has to be a mind shift in how you're looking at all this. Listen, I'll end this today because we are going to do this in parts because it is so important. The interview process. You need to approach the interview process on how much can I learn about this person that I hope to hire and pay to be in my life for an extended period of time. And so because of that, your approach to the interview process, you're going to be willing to invest more money, more time, over a longer period of time, because let's be for real. Who's going to put down a reference on their resume that is not going to give them a glowing recommendation? Nobody. It's like, who posts the most embarrassing, stupid, dumb decisions on their social media for everybody to look at, mock, and laugh and berate them? Pretty much nobody. So what you're going to get is almost the same thing you get in social media world. You're going to get a highlight reel that favors them, that shows them in the best possible light. We know the reality is that's just not reality. And so I need to ask enough questions. I need to spend enough time. I need to do enough research to figure out how am I checking these three boxes. And this whole process is built around these three core elements. You got to write these down. Think about these top of mind when you're going through your interview and your selection process. The very first thing I'm always looking for is character. So does this person have the character that I can trust my reputation and my brand with and my customer with? Customers are more empowered in the day and age that we live in now with reviews and online comments than they've ever been before. It's the new word of mouth referral. Referrals close at a higher rate. They cost less to advertise, and they also allow us to sell at a higher price because of trust and confidence. And you can actually generationally sell through them because they're going to pass that on with the people they have influence. So there's a good chance you're going to be able to sell to their kids and their grandkids. That's always our approach. So super important. So I need to find someone of character. Listen, If you hire somebody that is simply good at their job, let's go back to sales, and they're great at sales. They can get people to give them money, trust them in a moment, get their signature for a long-term commitment, but they don't have character. Over time, they're going to damage your brand. They're going to damage your reputation. And the amount of money that they made you quickly will soon be lost over a longer period of time. And so I can't pay someone like that and expect them to suddenly become a person of character because it's not in them. So I'm looking for a value in them that I can prove already exists, and I can build on that. So are you just trusting your brand, your reputation, your customer with just anybody because you happen to have a need and you need to fill it really quick? Sometimes we'd be better off apologizing to our customers, saying, listen, I know we told you we were going to get you your product in 4 weeks, but we're short-staffed and we refuse just to throw anybody on our team. And there's a certain level of expectation we have for customer experience that we're just not willing to compromise. I apologize. We're going to miss that deadline by 3 or 4 weeks, but I wanted to be upfront and honest with you and tell you what was going on. Honesty is always the best policy. You may have to offer to, give some people money back, but most of the time what will happen is people will realize, I don't necessarily like that I have to wait longer, but I'm glad that I chose them as a company because I thought there was something different about them and they were honest in the beginning. And I know life happens. And even though I'm impatient, I feel like because they're being honest and transparent with me now, I'm going to give them some more time and some more grace because I still think I chose the right company. The second thing is you can do these in different order. I'm going to tell you how we do them. The second thing I'm looking for is the cultural fit. How do they fit the culture that we've already created or the culture, if I'm rebuilding, that I'm trying to build? I don't want to invite somebody into that is going to fight us every step of the way. I need to put them in a boat and know that they're rowing in the same direction we are. They care about the same things that we care about. They're going to have the same work ethic that we're going to have. They're going to have the same attitude towards not being negative, and they're going to be a positive person. They're going to be invested in communities and have a servant hearts mentality. I'm looking for that because that's a cultural fit. If we can check those first 2 boxes, the third one's really easy. Is this person competent? I have to believe that I have a process that has made us successful. I'm assuming that we've documented that somehow so we can train that and teach that to another person. So if those things are done properly, I just need to find somebody that's competent, because if I can trust them and they're going to fit my culture and they have the potential, which is the competency, man, I can invest in that. I can develop that person over the long haul, and I can have a winner. I can also have loyalty. I can add value to that life. I can watch them blossom and feel fulfilled in their job, that now feels like a career, that they feel like that they're a part of something bigger than themselves. There's a couple of things that are super important when you do as many interviews as we do. We literally select 1 out of 100 people that we talk to. And it doesn't mean that 99 of those were bad people. Most of them are great people, or we wouldn't have even took the time to talk to them. But they need to be great people, but they also need to be a great fit. And so over a period of time, you learn what's important to many of these people. And one of the things is almost always people say, I want to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. And so if you can devote time into the right candidate and develop them, they feel like they have something more to give. The second thing that many of them talk about, I want to know that there's a career path here for me. In other words, I'm going somewhere. I'm not just a hamster on the wheel that's going to get fed and watered every day, or I just know I'm going to have a paycheck on Friday. I want to know, what can I do with this newfound growth, this potential that I'm developing? Is it providing opportunity for me? Am I able to move somewhere, take on more responsibility, make more money, serve more people, make a bigger impact? I only live once. In the back of all of these people's mind, those 2 things always come to the top. And so if I can select people that fit our mold and pour into them, those people begin to blossom before our eyes. And they give you such a competitive advantage. and they add an environment that attracts the kind of people that you want, and it causes the kind of people that you've invested in to want to stay. Say it like this, a great culture is one that your employees won't leave and your customers can't live without. That should be the goal. That's what we're trying to create. This is such a big subject. We're going to come back, tackle it again. I hope a little bit of this today has kind of helped begin maybe to wrap your head around how you think about your selection process, your interview process, what it looks like. Again, we'll come back. We'll hit it again. If you haven't got the book, I encourage you go get a copy of the Culture-neer. We talk about this in chapter 7 is one of the chapters that we talk about this. We train on this. There's a lot to this, guys, but it's probably one of the most important things when you go from a company and an organization of 1 to 2. You need to have these things in mind because these are the things that you can scale. So when you're at 30 and 300, your brand and your reputation is still protected. You're still taking market share. The back door's still closed. Your employees are recruiting some of your best staff, and you, because of tenure and experience, have a competitive advantage because you have this highly engaged workforce that is just showing up every day. They're willing to grind it out and go the extra mile. And in the process, what you've done is you've created raving fans, which in turn leads to long-term success. Listen, I appreciate your time today. I hope what we talked about today was super helpful and valuable to you. We'll see you next time on the Culture-neer podcast. Terry Gwaltney from the Culture-neer podcast. Listen, I want to say thank you for listening to the podcast today. I also want to encourage you to help us get the message out to more people. If you could like, share, and review this content on wherever you consume it, if you go into YouTube or LinkedIn or just whatever your social media channels are, and you could even share it, that would be a big help to us here at the Culture-neer podcast. Also, if you'd like some more information, you can go to www.terrygwaltney.com where we have updates. We also have more resources. We share articles there. And you also can find our new book there called The Culture-neer. Again, we want to thank you again for taking time just to listen to the podcast or view it on YouTube. It's our goal to spend 20 or 30 minutes each time we're together to help grow your culture to a point where your employees refuse to leave and your customers can't resist. This is Terry. We'll talk to you soon.